I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
All right, Chef Judd, you're going to cook us up a pie chart of blame off of that disgusting, ugly offensive performance by the Timberwolves last night.
Yep.
But you know what helps really flush the ugly, bad offense? Nothing like a trip to Parlor. Sink your teeth into one of those burgers to get your mind right over these next 2 days.
And how about this? For those of you in the West Metro, have I got some exciting Parlor news? This is sort of breaking news, in fact. They now have a new location in Excelsior. It's a supper club and a regular Parlor bar as well. Folks, if you haven't tried the Parlor Burger, you are missing out. Definitely the #1 star of your game, of your dining experience, but also the chicken sandwich. I've been trying to sell you on this. I think the chicken sandwich is absolutely delicious as well. Craft cocktail menu, fantastic service. So in addition to their locations in St. Paul, right down West 7th from the X, and also the North Loop, where you can obviously stop by before a Twins game or after Twins game, check out Parlor Bar in Excelsior now as the expansion continues, because that burger is too good to hold to just one fine area of our town.
Amen. So you've got the pie chart here. You were at the game last night at Target Center. You'll be there again for Game 2. I'm traveling the world at these radio and podcast industry conferences here. I'm in Toronto right now, and I'll be headed to Chicago for a couple of days. And last night, I was before the game and even after the game, like texting some people. I was all like full of thoughts, and no one cares about basketball here. You flip on SportsCenter in the morning here, there's like 5 TSN channels. They're all just showing like Edmonton highlights from last night.
Dude, it's incredible.
Nobody cares.
It's
about
fantastic.
basketball.
I loved it. Like they're showing like they handle the National Hockey League like we handle the NBA. Like the debates are all hockey debates. It's like, let's go show this. Hey, a junior game last night. Yeah, it is the most remarkable thing.
It's like, I just want to talk about the Wolves and Warriors.
No.
And everyone, like the bartenders are like,
There's
I don't know. I didn't know
Stephen A's like,
sorry.
Let me tell you something. Connor McDavid right now, he's not that good.
So, all right, why don't you slice up this pie chart of blame here? How many slices? Slices do we have?
3, 4, 5, 6 slices of pie.
Okay.
6 slices. A lot of blame to go around, but not surprisingly, a lot of it's going to fall on one guy. Okay? That's my tease for the pie chart. All right, let's start. We have 3 10% pieces, chunks of pie. 10% goes to, and again, there were a lot of guys that had bad nights. So 10% goes to Mike Conley, your starting point guard, who played 22 minutes last night, 0 for 5 from the field, 0 points. Certainly this is not all on Mike, but he basically did nothing last night, and you would like to see him at least contribute a little bit. But I could say that for a lot of guys.
Yeah. I mean, at the very simplest, he needs to hit some threes, right?
Yeah.
Because this is, I don't know, maybe the Score North Research Department can dig through the NBA history of inept 2-game shooting performances, but 12 for 76 from three-point range over these last 2 games. And Mike Conley, between like January and the end of the regular season, was over 40%. You know, he's not going to be a guy that you ride for 35 or 40 minutes. He'll be out there for 20 minutes. You can't have these 0 for 5s. It does kind of feel like, I'm not saying he's completely cooked. Like, I'm sure he'll contribute to some of these games in the series, but kind of feels like we're watching the end of Mike Conley as a contributing rotation player on a playoff team. That's kind of how I'm digesting these last few games.
Yeah, it kind of feels like we're seeing the beginning of Mike Conley, NBA executive or assistant coach, soon to be head coach at some point. According to ESPN, by the way, off your question, or your fact, 12 for 76 on 3-pointers. This is the worst percentage in NBA playoff history over a 2-game span. Minimum 53 3-pointer attempts.
There you go.
So
there you go.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Wolves.
Nice job. Yeah. Hang that banner. Let's hang that banner. I guess, I don't know, like, people are outraged, and there's definitely things about that game last night. You know, the fact that Chris Finch called out Anthony Edwards, and I don't want to get too far ahead in the pie chart. But at the end of the day, they're not going to be this bad of a shooting team the rest of the series. And I know that it seems that they might be, that they're never going to hit a three again. But there's a very good chance, much like Game 1 against the Lakers, that at some point here in the next game or two, they go gangbusters and go 20 of 41, and they win a game by 18 points. So that's I could, even sleeping on it last night, I have a hard time getting super worked up when the main problem is something the Wolves were great at. And three-point shooting can be really volatile. It can be really high variance, and you're experiencing the variance in front of your eyes with Game 5 against the Lakers and Game 1 against the Warriors. So I don't know, if you make 6 more threes, it's a completely different conversation last night.
10% goes to off the bench, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. 0 points, 0 for 3 in 14 minutes of play. Really, it's a playoff problem because, and I mean, this is a guy who's playing for a contract, and there have been times where it's like, yeah, you probably should pay him. Unfortunately, he's making that decision for you right now with his playoff performance. You know, he's one of the few guys, unlike the Warriors, he's one of the few guys that comes off the bench here. You played 8-man rotation last night. You need something from all of them. You got something from Nas, but and Donte DiVincenzo, who we'll get to here, just gave you absolutely nothing and have been giving you nothing too many times. So 10% chunk for Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Yeah, and for a guy that during the regular season became one of your absolute most important players. I mean, I remember on one of our Hottest Takes Wednesday episodes maybe a month ago, and it was coming off this crazy stretch of Nickeil shooting threes and playing defense and being an aggressor. And I remember I had said, and granted it was under the Hottest Takes umbrella, that I think he's the priority. I think it's like Julius and Nickeil, maybe even above Nas at the time. But if you take into account his playoff context the last 2 years, Nickeil Alexander-Walker is shooting like 26% from three-point range his last 22 playoff games last year and this year. A little bit of a small sample size, and maybe it's just, by chance that he's missing threes, but he's not getting any other offense either. His for these 6 games so far in these playoffs, he's 24% from the field, period. And last year he was 36% from the field and under 30% from three. So he has been a big-time minus offensively the last 2 playoff runs after being one of your most important rotational players throughout the regular season.
And one final 10% chunk to Julius Randle, who had 3 turnovers and 3 rebounds last night. Both are disturbing. Far more the rebounds. He, in fact, said post-game that can't happen, and he's not wrong about that. So
wrong tube.
Uh-oh. See, Phil's having problems too. Phil's having problems too. I told you not to sip that cocktail. I said put the cocktail down. These
green tea whiskeys in the morning.
Put the cocktail down.
No, I did a spit take when I heard 3 rebounds against that lineup. What are we doing here?
I know. Well, there's just a lot of things, but yes. So he had. I've got it right here. Julius Randle had 3 rebounds, 3 turnovers, and was 4 for 11 from the field.
Yeah, it's kind of he's had like 2 of those. I feel like the first game against the Lakers, I don't know, maybe he just needs a minute to settle into these series.
Yeah.
But the first game against the Lakers with the 7 turnovers, and then last night, I beat this horse last night too. You can't get out-rebounded 51-41 against that team. And I know they were bringing some height off the bench, but you need Julius to pound the ball inside, to grab rebounds.
And like you said, that team, that size, and plus, I mean, when you look at Jimmy and Draymond, this is a Julius kind of series, right? Like it's bully ball again. You're gonna bully me, I'm gonna bully you back, and so that was disappointing.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a fair 10%.
All right, so that's it for 10%. 15%. I got 2 of those. 15% to Chris Finch. Your team went oddly back to, and I did not expect this in the playoffs, to be honest with you. And I don't think that the Game 2 loss to the Lakers did not remind me of this, but your team sort of reverted back to some of its regular season woes, including Steph Curry goes out, and you got worse. Like, Steph Curry going out should have been like, you should have, pounced. Just like, Steph Curry's out. Let's get this game. Like, the loss does not by any means preclude you from winning the series. Okay. I know it feels like that this morning, but it doesn't. But that being said, too, there's been times, and I felt it again last night, where there's like blood in the water. Like, the Bucks are without their 2 stars. Blood in the water. Let's go kill them. You lose. And I mean, I could go through 4 or 5 games like that. And last night, the Warriors are still good, but Steph goes out, and instead of like, okay, we're not off to a great start, but who cares? Let's dagger these guys tonight. You sort of just played with your food, and I don't know what you did, but Chris Finch, he's the coach. I liked what he did with Ant, but that being said, he does not get a pass because his team didn't play well.
And traditionally, even dating back to, if I remember right, like Game 1 against Memphis 3 years ago, when you give Finchy time to prepare,
yeah, it's great,
and time to start a series, the Wolves usually come out swinging, and it's the other team that has to absorb the Wolves' energy and like against the Suns, for instance, the Suns, the Wolves made some adjustments that they withheld maybe at the end of the season, and it just like the other team usually has to counter back. And this series is obviously the opposite. Now, in fairness to Finchy, he couldn't have seen the tornado that is Pat Spencer coming off the bench last night. One of the most dominant players in recent Northwestern basketball history. That 1-3, you know what? If you need a guy to help run a 1-3-1 zone, call someone from Northwestern, baby.
Northwestern's just the bane of our existence. they give the Gophers fits with their zone. Their guys go to Golden State and give the Wolves fits. But we also, it was also a reminder last night too that JJ Redick is a young coach who had a bad series. I still think he's a good coach. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say he's not. But last night was a reminder that this is a big boy coaching series. Like, Steve Kerr has had a lot of star power, but he's really damn good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tongue-in-cheek with the Pat Spencer stuff, but that dude played 6 minutes a game over the course of he played 250 total minutes in the regular season. And Steve Kerr's like, yeah, second round, Western Conference semifinals, let's go 11 deep in our rotation. I was mistaken last night. I think I said on the postgame show the Warriors played a 10-man rotation in the first half. It was 11. They played 11 dudes in the first half. That is a cultural thing. When you can look, and I'm not saying that the key to the series is Finch going down to his bench and playing Rob Dillingham and Jalen Clark. I do think Jalen Clark deserves some minutes in the series, and or Terrence Shannon Jr. I think it's the main players that are going to be the ones that win the series. But the fact that Finchy doesn't even trust a Jalen Clark or a Rob Dillingham outside of the pregame warm-up 3.5 hours before the game, when Steve Kerr's like, how about Quentin Post and Pat Spencer for 16 combined minutes in this game? All right, go get it, guys.
Yeah, it was impressive. So 15% of the pie chart of blame for that Wolves loss goes to Chris Finch. There's one more 15% slice before we get to the star of the show, and it's a guy who I'm giving him 15%, a little bit like with Na, but he's more important than Na. It's sort of a playoff achievement award as well, which is not a good thing, by the way. 15% to Donte DiVincenzo. 3 for 11 from the field last night. 1 of 7 on threes. 7 points in 32 minutes off the bench. But in 6 games thus far, so the 5 against the Lakers and then the 1 last night against the Warriors, 7 for 38 from the field. It's funny because when the playoffs started, we thought, okay, playoff Julius is a problem child, which he wasn't great last night or in game 1 against the Lakers, but he's been otherwise, I think, very good. And Donte DiVincenzo was coming off last spring, a real nice playoff run with the Knicks. But it's flipped. It's reversed. So Donte DiVincenzo, 15%, yes, for last night, but 7 of 38 from the field. You're going to be hard-pressed to make the Western Conference Finals unless you get a little bit more, in my opinion, coming off the bench from Donte, who we all thought was an absolute key part, and I think he was, to the catch rate.
And I know that the temptation is you're watching DiVincenzo and Nickeil just build houses with the bricks that they're laying to say get those guys out or replace them in the rotation or tell them to stop shooting. I think if you're going to go on a run and you're going to win this series and you're going to win the next series and you're going to fulfill whatever your peak potential is, it's not going to be because you told Donte DiVincenzo and Nickeil Alexander-Walker to stop shooting threes. Like your best version of this team is those guys firing away and piling on the math coming off the bench. But it stings when they're not because that's what leads to the historic 2-game stretch that you alluded to earlier in the episode here. But just some numbers for you, because you mentioned Donte DiVincenzo with the Knicks last year. Now, he played more minutes. He started 13 games because they needed him. He was being asked to do more with the Knicks in that run than he is off the bench with the Wolves here. But he's still playing 28 minutes a game off the bench in the 6 playoff games. But last year with the Knicks, DiVincenzo shot 43% in the playoffs from 3 on 8.5 attempts per game. He was legitimately one of the best three-point shooting players of any team in the playoffs last year, dropping 30. He had a 38-point game at one point. This year so far, 18% from the three-point line and 29% from just all field goal attempts. So again, it's like this is where I come in. Is that going to continue? And I guess maybe the answer in a small sample size is yes.
Yeah.
But I think you have to ask, is this just a short-term 6-game anomaly with 2 of your best three-point shooters coming off the bench?
Yep.
Or is there something about these playoffs, the matchups, I don't know, the pressure? Like if you were to tell me I inherently believe that Nickeil and Donte are shrinking under the weight of these playoffs and Lakers and Warriors, I don't buy that. I think they're just cold, and I think they're going to snap out of it. And that's kind of like that's where Positive Phil comes in and says, dude, they dismissed the Lakers in 5 games. They kind of hung in there against the Warriors with their worst offensive performance of the year easily. What happens when the shots start falling like they have for pretty much the entire season? There is a tidal wave of offense that they can tap into, but obviously it's not promised or guaranteed. So I don't know, man. It's to add Nickeil and Donte's performances together is a crippler for this offense. But they're still finding their way in these games by holding teams under 100 points.
Yeah, I don't think, like, if you were to ask me, the Nickeil thing is a problem. I think the DiVincenzo thing is a potential killer. Like, I think that's the one that gets me because it's been 6 games now of the playoffs, and it should turn around at some point, but, like, you have to have him. You have to. I think that Donte DiVincenzo can come off the bench and play an absolutely instrumental role in winning games, and he's really yet to do that. And so that's a must-have. That's a absolute must-have because he's a incredibly important part of this team right now into the future. Like, you need to have a baseline of expectation there. No pun intended. So, yeah, all right, we got one
what you did there. Little
baseline of expectation.
Basketball term.
Basketball term. One slice left. 40%. It's a big one. It's a biggie. The math should work out. I did it about 8 times to make sure.
Yeah, that's good. Your math's good. Yeah.
Anthony Edwards, 9 for 22 from the field last night. Had 1 point at the half, though. Was 0 for from the field. 0 for 8 in the first half from the field. 0 for 3 on threes. Ended up 1 of 5 on 3. So he had 23 points, but it was misleading at best. 1 point in the first half got called out by Chris Finch for basically not coming with the requisite intensity, and the fact that he didn't find a way to contribute, didn't get back on defense a couple of times. It's very frustrating because we have sung his praises since the playoffs started almost every game because of the maturity that he showed that he did not necessarily show in the regular season. And once the playoffs start and you do that, you sort of hope the immaturity thing is gone because it's not really an excuse. It's not like, I mean, you could have bad shooting nights, but when your coach is questioning what you're bringing as far as, and you're the captain, like that's a you decision. There was nothing about his game last night from that end that's like, oh, I accidentally had an off night. Well, yeah, you did shooting, but then you didn't contribute, and that was Finch's point. So 40% goes to a guy who definitely gets the praise and deserves it when he plays great, which he does a lot of times. But when he doesn't, you sort of saw what happened, and it happened last night. And quite frankly, it's disappointing that he was not the lead guy to say, Steph Curry is out. Like, let's go get them. Let's go get this game. It is a very gettable game. And make no mistake, Golden State didn't play great. It's not like Golden State came in and whooped the Wolves' butt, and it's like, oh my God, this Golden State team is fantastic. They played a very smart game, a very effective game, but they did not play a great game. So, sorry, Ant, but you get 40%, man. Very disappointing.
Yeah. Also, just before we go back to Ant here, because I have a couple nuggets for you on him. The difference between, in my opinion, just broadly, the Warriors and the Lakers is that the Lakers will get really caught up in kind of one-on-one isolation ball, sometimes ego-driven. You know, there were so many times where Luka wants to stick it to Rudy, and it almost became agenda-driven in some ways.
Sure.
The Warriors are the ultimate, consummate team in the NBA. Even though they have some star players, and they've got some egos too, Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green, Steph. But that is, I believe, the Warriors led the NBA in passes per game in the regular season. They will move the ball around. You saw it last night. They will make the extra pass and then the next extra pass. And so if you aren't dialed in, if you are, for instance, missing a shot at the rim and flailing your arms looking at the official, guess what's happening the other way? 4 or 5 different times off Anthony Edwards misses at the rim. Mm-hmm. They're coming down in transition, playing tic-tac-toe passing game. And like the misses at the rim, he's been cold from 3. This is definitely his most inefficient shooting playoffs of the 4 different playoff seasons Anthony Edwards has been in. But it's the misses at the rim. He's got this freight train frame, and he can get to the rim pretty much at will. And he even said that last night. He's like, yeah, I mean, I thought the problem was more, I got whatever I wanted in the first half. I just didn't convert at the rim. Why doesn't he convert more at the rim? This is whether they get beat in this series against the Warriors or they advance and wherever they bow out, that is the go back to the lab thing that he needs to work on and fix. He did it with his 3-point shot last year, but absorb contact, get those and ones, and it's twofold. It's you're taking points off the board for your own team when you can't convert those easy bunnies at the rim, or even like absorb the contact and lay it in anyways. But then when that shot comes off the rim, the other team is flying down the court in transition, and it might be a 4 or 5 point swing, and that happens all the time when he misses these bunnies. So, I was looking this up in terms of just efficiency. So the first 3 playoff runs, 46% from the field, 48%, 48%, 41.5% from the field this year. And then after shooting 40% on threes in last year's playoffs, he's down to 32%. So again, is he due for a hot streak at some point and they're going to start pouring in and you're going to see a barrage of offense? Or are the Warriors just that good defensively and the Lakers in that first round where they're just kind of locking him up? I think the offense is going to come.
I think he's going to bounce back. I have some concerns about certain guys. I think Ant bounces back. I think if he doesn't have a really big game 2, I'll be very disappointed. Like I think that there is Finch knew what he was doing in laying into him last night. Like that was not a sudden spur of the moment. Oh my God, I'm sorry I said that. I didn't mean for that to come out. That was very purposeful. So I would expect, and I think Ant responds to that. Like I don't think that that's where he's like, oh, I can't believe you said that publicly. So I would expect him to bounce back. The thing at the rim is almost a different story in some ways because it's a season-long problem, and I'm very confused why. If he was a frail dude, I'd be like, okay, he's going to have to, but you're exactly right. He's a freight train. And if nothing else, I mean, is he looking to draw the fouls? So he's so intent on drawing the fouls that he's going to the rim, but he's not, because he clearly does not finish. Like that's the thing is he's got times where he could dunk the ball.
Right.
And it's just like, dunk the ball, dude. And if you get fouled, great. And if you don't, but more often than not, your defender is going to be sorry he did that. Like it's not like he's going to get pushed around and he'll fall, but so that to me is a talker for something that definitely needs to improve. But I think his overall game in game 2 on Thursday, I'm expecting a big game from him.
Yeah. So you're going Mike Conley 10%, Nickeil Alexander-Walker 10%, Julius Randle 10%, Finchy 15%, Donte 15%, Donte DiVincenzo, and then Anthony Edwards with the biggest chunk, 40% with your pie chart of blame. I do have one more kind of big picture question here looking ahead to the rest of the series, but a shout out to Neos Elite Performance. Actually, Eric Sugarman, former head athletic trainer for the Vikings, joined Purple Daily earlier this week for a fun 20-minute interview. So tell the audience, Judd, about Neos Elite Performance.
Yeah, so if you are a, basketball player, and you played basketball into your 20s and 30s, and now you just can't because it hurts, guess what? The folks at Neos Elite are going to help you not only get back on your feet, but get back on the court as well. Their cutting-edge regenerative medicine and cellular IV therapy is designed to get you going again. And here's the most important thing, too. Without invasive procedures, white glove service, Neos is going to come to your home. No trips to the doctors, the hospital. They're going to come to you. So if back or knee pain is making everyday tasks feel impossible, stop the suffering. Neos Elite's therapy is designed to reduce the pain, restore function, and get you back on, the court, the golf course. Also, if you reference our flagship show, Purple Daily, you get $500 off a cellular IV therapy treatment. NeosElite.com. Check out their site. A lot of good information about what they do. Neos, Neos, elite.com.
So my question for you is, how much did Game 1 change your thoughts on the outcome of the series? And I know that it's hard to project because Steph Curry has a hammy. Sounds like he's not going to be playing tomorrow.
I think he's done for this. I think he's done. I think he's lucky. If it gets to the long break is between games 5 and 6, 3 days off. Yeah. I think Game 6 might be back, but he's an old guy, and he's never had a hamstring, so there's no baseline for him. Like there's
when you're 35, 36 years old and you just had a grinded out 7-game series against Houston and basically no time off, and you jump into the next thing. I don't know if it's related. Let's say he's out until at least Game 6. Do you think the Wolves win the series?
Yeah. I'm going to stick with what I said last night. Wolves in 6 games. It might go 7. It's going to be, but here's what last night, unless the Wolves completely collapse, and that will be an entirely different discussion that we don't need to have right now. I think it's going to be an incredibly tough series. Like the Wolves didn't, at the end of the day, I guess you could say they did not show up last night. Do I expect that in Game 2 and Game 3? Absolutely not. I think it's going to be a very tough series. I think the Warriors threw a punch last night. It was effective, but I don't think we're going to see, Phil, a lot of pretty basketball here. I think we're going to see what looks to be sloppy because it's physical, it's tough. I think the Wolves are going to come back. I think the Wolves are going to win Game 2, and I still think at the end of the day, I think the Wolves win the series. And Steph's absence, make no mistake, is going to make ultimately a huge difference, unless you think that Draymond is going to start every game in the first half hitting threes, which the Wolves were giving him on purpose. Now, good for him, he made them, but I don't know that he's going to continue down that path.
Yeah, I think it was our guy Jake Painting, Howls and Growls, and he talked about every bet that the Wolves made wound up being a loser. Like you're going to bet that you're going to leave Draymond Green open so you can attend to other things defensively, and you're going to bet that he doesn't hit 4 of his first 5 shots from 3-point range to build a cushion. Well, you lost that bet. But that's a bet that you're going to, you have to make that bet. And if he shoots 45% from 3 in the series, all right, congratulations to the Warriors. They'll be going on to the Western Conference Finals. But then the other bet you make is that one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the league, the Timberwolves, at high volume, is going to pour in threes at some point, and you lost that bet too in Game 1. But that's, again, you can't just revert off of the thing that helped get you here in the first place. You have to just shoot through it and hope that it turns around. So,
and last night also, I mean, the 3-point shooting and the shooting from the field when it mattered was really bad. But last night also is really a mentality loss as well, though. Like you did revert to the team that sort of just didn't show up at times. I think if they had shown up engaged, I don't think they get off to that bad a start shooting wise. So really, this is about regaining your focus. It is weird in a playoff game that it wasn't there, but there's no question that was not there, and I don't expect that's going to be a problem for game 2.
Yeah, Finch was kind of the tell, right? Because if Finch would have come out and said, I don't know, I thought we were dialed in, we just didn't make a shot, then all right, okay.
Right.
But he was like, we went off script on defense, Ant didn't bring energy, so you kind of follow his lead on that. But all right, so back at it tomorrow, post-game, Flagrant Howls, Judd from the arena. I'll be in Chicago watching remotely, but we'll be live just a few minutes right after Game 2, Warriors and Wolves, on the Score North YouTube channel. If you haven't already clicked that like button and the subscribe button on this YouTube channel, please do so. And on the Flagrant Howls Apple and Spotify pages, a 5-star rating and a positive review can help continue to grow this community. For the sports dad, Judd, for our guy Kyle last night at the arena, I am Phil, and this is a Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.